Hey guys, this is Will Terry, and just wanted to make a video for you guys on how you can make more money with your illustrations. And before I completely dive into that part of this video, I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson. This is something that a lot of illustrators know, but I'm surprised at how many illustrators don't know it. So I thought I'd dive in, and feel free to do your own research and check my facts. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section as well. So one of the things that a lot of illustrators don't know today is that illustrators in the golden age of illustration, and I'm talking about in the early 1900s, they made money like movie stars. The money that they got was so much more compared to what we get today. And I want to talk about those facts and those figures a little bit. Now, one of the reasons, and to be fair, comparing wise, is that before Hollywood kind of took over and before there were movie stars, illustrators were kind of the stars, and everyone subscribed to certain magazines like Collier's and like the Saturday Evening Post, magazines that aren't even around today, but were in every home. And that's how people got a lot of their information. They didn't have TV sets, and so they subscribed to different newspapers and different magazines, and that's how the information flowed. And the camera hadn't taken over yet, and so illustrators were relied upon heavily. So in some ways, the comparisons I'm going to make, you have to take that into consideration, is that there was a lot more money flowing into those magazines. However, the population of the earth was so much less back then as well, so there wasn't as much money in some respects. It's kind of hard to make straight across comparisons, but I'm going to do the best that I can, and again, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So if we look at a couple illustrators back in the day, a couple famous ones, Charles Dana Gibson was, at one point was the highest paid illustrator in the world. He got a contract with Collier's magazine to do 100 illustrations for $1,000 each in 1 year. So in 1 year, with one company, and I don't even know if he took on other assignments. Knowing how we illustrators are, he probably slid other assignments in there as well. But he did 100 illustrations in 1 year for a contract of $1,000 a piece. So that's $100,000 in a year, and that year was 1904. At that time, the average home price was $4,000. So if you think about it, he made $100,000 that year. Let's forget about taxes. Let's just say he got a check for $100,000 at the end of the year, or he was really good with his money before that, and he didn't have to spend any of it. And he just had $100,000. He could buy 25 homes back then, 25 average homes with cash. Now, most people today cannot buy a single home with cash. If we buy a home, we buy it with a loan, right? We put some money down. But he could buy 25 homes. Let's say it was after taxes and after expenses and everything. Okay, so he could only buy half of that, 12, 13 homes with cash. That's an insane amount of money. So if you look at it, adjusting for inflation, like today's average home price is like $350,000. So today, his $100,000 wouldn't even buy one home. It would only buy like not even a third of a home, right? And then you have Norman Rockwell, who at his death in 2013, in 1913, his estate was valued at $24 million. Now, if you Google what a dollar was worth in the early 1900s versus today, Google is saying it's $32. Now, that's not straight across. We make homes differently today. We put a lot more technology into them, and so maybe they do. Maybe if we were making the same home today back then, maybe their home would cost twice as much, 8,000 or 10,000 or something. It would be more in line with ours, but they say that his, I mean, this is I've got a silver dollar here, and this dollar was worth $1, and this says 1922 on it. It was $1. You could buy, I mean, this is the money that you had back then, right? In the U.S. Today, if you were to buy this silver dollar, and this doesn't have any really numismatic value. It's not, it's beat up, and they call it junk silver. So it doesn't really sell for anything more than the silver content that's in it. And you'd have to spend about $30 to $32, $33 for that today if you bought it from a coin dealer. And that goes right along with what the inflation rate is saying. If you look at Google, is about 33 times. So if you took Norman Rockwell's $24 million estate and multiplied it by 33, because again, those dollars were 2013 dollars, today that would be worth about $792 million. Now, the point that I'm making in this whole video, and I'm gonna sum it up and get there, is that basically there are no illustrators that I know, even the most successful ones, that are worth anywhere approaching anywhere near that. That's even the top ones, right? The top illustrators that I know, I think there's a few that I know that have made over $1 million. I've never really talked to them about it because it's impolite to talk about net worths and stuff like that. But I know a few that I think probably are worth, their probably estate is worth a little over $1 million, a couple $1 million. A friend of mine who you might be following right now, this is March 14th, 2022. And a friend of mine has a Kickstarter going on right now, Brandon Sanderson, who you might want to go check out if you haven't already heard about it. His is the top grossing Kickstarter of all time going on right now, Brandon Sanderson, and he's a fantasy writer. And his is crushing it. He'll probably be over $30 million, but he'll probably only be able to keep half or maybe even 20 or 25 or 30% of that after all the expenses are paid. And remember, like 25% of that is probably shipping, because he's charged shipping on his Kickstarter. So you see this huge number. But that's like probably the most successful artist I've ever personally met. And he was already successful before this Kickstarter, but nowhere near. I mean, $792 million is like, is just shy of $1 billion as an artist, as an illustrator, and that's while he was alive. So the point that I'm getting with this is that illustrator wages actually go down every year. And I don't know if you know that. Some illustrators know that, some don't. But the fact that that this dollar every year, this by the way, will probably be worth $34 in a year, 35, 36. It's going to keep going up. Now, this silver is not worth anymore. It's not like it's going up in price. It's staying even with the cost of goods and services. In other words, what you can buy with this today, if I traded this in for $33, is about what I could buy 100 years ago with this same coin. So it holds its value. It fluctuates a little bit up and down, but basically it's the US dollar, the paper dollar, that's losing. This is not gaining in value. So the point that I'm making with illustrator wages is the same thing. When I first started almost 30 years ago, I would get to illustrate children's book work, a full page in a magazine, $1,000, somewhere around there. Those rates in 30 years haven't really changed. If you were to get an offer from Ranger Ricks to do a full page, it'd probably be about $1,000, maybe $1,200. Some people might get $1,500. It's almost the same. It hasn't changed. And so every year we take another little haircut and another little haircut and another little haircut. And so that's the kind of the depressing side of it. However, there are wages that have gone up. They've gone up a little bit. There's a couple things at play. The more famous you get as an illustrator, the more in demand you are, the more you can command. So, you take two illustrators that are working on picture books for the same publisher, let's say HarperCollins, and one illustrator for the same size book, same pages, same number of illustrations and everything, could end up being offered, $15,000 or $20,000, and then, or less, $12,000, and then someone who's really established could be offered 50,000, 75,000, 80,000, 100,000 even, for doing the same amount of work. So personally, their value is set higher based on, how long they've been doing it, how much the publisher wants them and their specific style. And so those factors go into play. But in general, publishers will not offer us more money unless they feel like they can't they can't get an artist to say yes, right? So in some ways we're our own worst enemies, because if we say yes to low fees, there's no way they're going to ever go up. So one suggestion that I have, and I really hope this video does well. I don't ask you guys to like and subscribe and do all that stuff, because I feel like if I'm doing my job, you'll do that anyway. But boy, it would be nice to get this information out there. The two things that you can do that I think will really help raise wages, if everybody practiced this, is one, always ask for a little bit more. If there's a budget, if the art director or the editor says, hey, this is what we have in our budget. We've got, let's just say, throw out a round number, $1,000 to do a full page. And here's the thing. I started out one day, and I remember being tickled. They're going to pay me $1,000 to do what I want to do. I want to draw, and they're going to pay me $1,000 to do this instead of going to work in a real job. I'll take it. The thing that you have to realize is, historically, the fees are not going up. They haven't really gone up. So if we all, use the internet to spread these ideas, and if everyone asked for a little bit more, and just said, hey, is there any way, do you have $1,200 in your budget? One, you have to know it is not the art director's money. And they're not going to say, well, now that you've asked for that, you don't even get the job. They're never going to cancel out on you. So worst case scenario is they're going to say no. Okay. Now you don't even have to ask face to face, because we don't talk to art directors on telephones anymore. This is an email interaction, or a messenger interaction. And so you could say, hey, do you have it in your budget I'd really like to get $1,200 for that. So you're not asking them to double it. You're not asking even for 50% more. You could ask for $1,500. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And especially, I've in videos before where if you feel like the ask is below your bottom line, then for sure you can double or triple it. And I have a bunch of times where I'm like, no, if I do this job, I'm going to need triple what you just offered. And often I don't get it. But that's the point of this whole ask thing, is that benefits you or the other person who does get that job. Because what it does is it puts it out there that that we need more money. That people are willing to walk away from a job because they're not offering enough money. They need that feedback, okay? So my suggestion is twofold. One, always ask for more money. If you don't want the extra $200 and they pay you an extra $200, send it to me. I'll use it. I'm kidding, of course, but like, it will help you in the future to always ask. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, I've got that in there. A lot of art directors will they'll have $1,200 or $1,500 in their budget, and they'll say, well, if I can get this artist for $1,000, then that gives me a little more for the next person that is asking for more, or that's asking to double it, and maybe I can actually get all the artists that I want this year. So they have some art directors will have a budget for all the art that they hire in a year, and they have to make it all fit within that. So that's their only concern, is to not give too much to one person, because then they can't afford the others. And sometimes it's just a directive, see how much you can save the company by offering less, And so we have to push back on that. The other thing is that if you can't, and this is where I think a lot of illustrators go wrong. Let's say you're busy and you absolutely can't fit anything else in your schedule. I think the mistake that a lot of illustrators make is they say, I'm just too busy. Or let's say the job offer is for too little money. They'll use that as an excuse, because it's easier to say you're too busy than to say, I need triple for that. I need a ton of money for that. It hurts us in the long run when you do that, I think, to say you're busy instead of telling the truth. The truth is, they didn't offer you enough money. The crucial conversation and the responsible thing to do, in my opinion, is to let them know that. To tell them, hey, I am really busy, but I would fit this in my schedule if you had X amount of money. But I would need that in order to do it. And then if they got a few of those, 2 or 3 of those where they get turned down, you better believe the budgets will start to go up, because they have to hire artists. They have to get the illustrations assigned, and they will bump those budgets up in order to be able to attract someone. I mean, like, why is it $1,000 instead of $500? Because enough people would probably say no at $500. They know they got to offer at least $1,000. Well, let's start getting them to offer $1,200, $1,500, and see if we can bump those budgets up. We're all operating as individual contractors, but we all work out of the same pools of money and the same budgets. And so it really doesn't help us. I'm just going to reiterate, it doesn't help any of us to say you're busy when the truth is you need more money to do it. And that's what I have for you today. I hope that this helps you earn more money in your year. I mean, if you were able to get 3 or 4 budgets or 10 budgets bumped up in a year, that's substantial. And with inflation going on right now, we've got higher gas prices, higher everything. We need to get our standard of living wage increased as well. I mean, companies have that built in. When you work for a company and you get a wage, you often will get a salary increase without even asking for it. It's cost of living wage going up. Well, we illustrators won't get it unless we force it to happen. So spread this around, and hopefully you can affect the change. There's one last thing that I want to mention, and one thing that I'm definitely involved in, if you're not aware, is I got my wife calling me right now, and that is, hold on a second, honey, I'm making a video right now.
Oh, so lunch is not gonna work then?
I'm almost done. You're on the video, by the way. I'm gonna leave this in.
We gotta go to lunch.
This is real life happening right here. Okay, I'll call you right back. I'm wrapping up.
Great.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
And so, the last thing I want to talk about is my involvement with svslearn.com. And I just want to give a shout out that we have a really good children's book illustration program at svslearn.com. And if you go there, you will see that there's a subscription price, a subscription rate. I'm going to tease this. That may be changing in the future, but anybody that is in on the subscription rate today will keep their rate. I love working for svslearn.com. I love making tutorials and teaching classes there. And so go check it out. Have a wonderful day, and I will not see you on the next video, but I will probably be making another video in not too long from now.